Hey Dan, can you hear me? student Good morning, everyone. I am going to do a quick check on which board members we have, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, I'm not sure if I can't hear, but it is 9 o'clock. Ashley, do you know if we're good to start?
I'm just looking now. So as of right now, I see Mr. Swanson, Mary Ellen Lee, and Superintendent Hoffman, Mr. Stratton.
Ashley, this is Carol Crockett. I'm in.
Okay. Just double checking, is Mr. Mason on? Okay, so as of right now, I have President Lee. Is Mr. Close on? I don't see him either. President Lee, at this time, we do not have quorum, so we're waiting on a few board members to hop on.
Ashley, there wasn't like an updated Zoom link, right? So like nobody could be sitting on like the wrong Zoom link somewhere.
That's correct. Yeah, we're talking in communication with Mr. Mason and
No
Mr.
worries.
Close.
Okay, no worries. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. I believe Mr. Close has just joined us, so at this time we do have quorum. President Lee, you do have a quorum.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a few housekeeping things since we're fully virtual this time. Board members, if you'd please stay muted, and after each agenda item, we'll allow for an open discussion and dialogue first. And Ashley may go through the roll call to see if any member has an additional comment or question if needed to ensure each board member is heard. And please state your name before you speak. I can't see everybody's face, so if you need to, please unmute yourself and say your name. Don't like raise your hand because I can't see you to stop talking. So charters on the agenda, please stay muted until the item is considered. We'll ask if the charter is available, and if so, the charter can unmute themselves at that time. And the general public is viewing the meeting via a live stream. Aaron, if you could do the official roll call, please.
Absolutely. President Lee.
Here.
Vice President Close.
Here.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Here.
Dr. Crockett.
Present.
Mr. Mason.
Present.
Price. Mr. Stratton.
Present.
Mr. Swanson.
Here.
President Lee, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you. And up next then we have the superintendent's report. Superintendent Hoffman.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, President Lee, Vice President Close, and board members. Before beginning, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge respectfully the geographical landscape of Maricopa County sits on the ancestral homelands of those indigenous nations that have inhabited this land for centuries, including the Pima, Lehigh, and Lavine peoples. First, last week, I was thrilled to announce a $14 million partnership with between the Department of Education and Donors Choose to provide pre-K to 12th grade public school teachers up to $1,000 in classroom supplies. I was so excited to make this announcement, and just within the first 72 hours, we were able to fund nearly 9,000 teacher projects, providing over $2 million straight to educators across the state. This demand highlights the great need for sustainable state funding for student resources, and we know that our educators have relied on using funds from their own limited paychecks to support student achievement for too long. And I'm proud that we were able to offer this little bit of relief. All public school educators, including charter school teachers, can apply for these funds, including counselors, school counselors, social workers, speech pathologists, and other school professionals. Our teachers across the state have already started to even receive their supplies in the mail from their funded projects. So I encourage all of our educators to take advantage of this funding while it lasts. For more information, go to our website at azed.gov/teacher-grants for more information on how to apply. Also last Thursday, my Student Advisory Council hosted the first ever Student Summit. The summit was organized into 3 presentations entirely created by the students. I was so impressed with each of these presentations on their chosen topics, which were mental health, technology, and cultural awareness. Each student spoke to how these topics have impacted them personally and what solutions students need to ensure classrooms have the mental health and wellness resources, access to high quality technical education and technology, including devices, and also how our students and how our schools can build inclusive learning environments. Above all, I was touched by our students' vulnerability and sharing their personal experiences through the COVID-19 pandemic. A recording of the summit will be made available on our department's advisory council website shortly. And I encourage you to listen to hear our students' perspectives and hopes for the educational system. And hearing directly from our students is a critical part of our work in education, and those students who participated in the Student Summit expressed how much they enjoyed having a platform to speak on the topics of their choice. And so with that, I'm excited to continue hearing from our students across the state through our upcoming cohort of student advisors for the 22-23 school year. Students in 5th through 12th grade can apply to be advisors on my Student Advisory Council at this time. And also students who are in high school, community college, or in a 4-year post-secondary institution are also eligible to apply to participate in the following advisory councils. We have the African American Advisory Council, Equitable and Inclusive Practices Advisory Council, Indian Education Advisory Council, Latinx Advisory Council, and the newly formed Rural Advisory Council. Applications for all students are due by March 22nd. And that concludes my superintendent's report for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Superintendent Hoffman. And I know some of the teachers at my school even have already received their things with a grant. And so it was really exciting just to be on the other end of that and see it working and everyone getting together to submit projects. So that was really great. Okay, up next, we have the Executive Director's Report. Ashley.
Thank you, President Lee, and good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. I hope you all had a great weekend, and it's good to see you today, even if it is just virtually. I do need to apologize. The Department of Administration was working on my computer last week, and it appears that my camera was not fixed. So I'm sorry that my camera is not on today. But as an update on board actions and legal matters, the board has entered into a termination agreement with accelerated elementary and secondary schools. A charter holder, the board issued a notice of intent of revocation for not meeting the board's operational expectations last December. This charter will be closed effective June 30th, 2022. Board staff continues to be in communication with the charter and are working with them closely to help with the closure of the charter and the change of their operations going forward. As to Parkview School, Inc., the board did issue a notice of intent to revoke at its February meeting. And as of now, a hearing on the notice of intent to revoke is pending a date to be set by the Office of Administrative Hearings. There are 2 consent agreements on the consent agenda for your consideration today, and board staff anticipates more of the consent agreements to be on the March agenda for your consideration. That concludes my update on board actions and legal matters. Are there any questions? Okay, moving on to my update on approved amendments, termination agreements, reviews, and training sessions. As promised, I am providing you an update on the number of Arizona Online Instruction Amendment requests approved by me as the Executive Director, and that has been 0 since the last month. We have not received any additional amendments for consideration. Additionally, we have had, since our last board meeting, 39 amendments approved, 11 interval reviews, and 3 renewal reviews, 18 pop-in visits. And as I mentioned in my legal update, the President Lee did sign the surrender agreement for accelerated elementary and secondary schools. Are there any questions on that update? Okay, moving on. Serena will present to you an update on policy and legislative work.
Good morning, President Lee and board members. Since the last board meeting, the legislature is now at the time in session where bills are being heard in the opposite chamber from which they were introduced. Any bill that did not get a hearing in committee in their original chamber are now considered dead. However, there is always the chance for bills to be revived through amendments. Next week will be the final week for all bills to be heard in committee. Board staff participated in a stakeholder meeting at the request of Representative Udall to discuss changes to HB 2808. And for a little bit of a reminder, HB 2808 creates the Fresh Start program, as well as establishes a new achievement district board for the state. This is a priority of the governor's office and is also known by the name Project Momentum. So it's aimed at increasing academic outcomes for F and D schools. The board's requested changes coming out of that meeting were part of a draft floor amendment However, the actual bill 2808 has not been seen on the floor yet. And so we're anticipating that we may see some provisions of the bill move forward as amendments or potentially in the budget instead. Speaking of the budget, the board has been in close contact with our assigned budget analyst, and everything looks good so far. Budget discussions are not underway yet, but are expected to begin late this month or sometime in April. Thank you, board members, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Serena. Okay, moving on to my board member update. I have been in communication with the governor's office and boards and commissions regarding new board member appointments. At this time, it is my understanding that it's likely there will be an announcement later this week about new board member appointments. Once I know more information, I will make sure to communicate to our board members and also to the field. But at this time, that is all the information I have regarding new board member appointments. Okay. And President Lee, that is all I have to inform the board members at this time.
Great, thank you, Ashley. Okay, up next, we have the call to the public. No written public comment was received and no request to speak forms were submitted. So we will go ahead and go on to item G, which is all in education presentation. And so it looks like Jeff Zatino and Stephanie Parra are here. If you guys want to go ahead and unmute yourselves at this time and state your name for the record, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and members. My name is Stephanie Parra. I'm the Executive Director of All in Education, joined by my colleague, Jeff Zatino, who is our Research and Policy Director at All in Ed. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about our work. And I believe we have a presentation. Awesome, perfect. A little bit of background on All in Ed. We are a new education advocacy organization here in Arizona. We're really working to close the opportunity gaps that exist in the education system and make sure that every single student across the state truly has access to opportunity and justice. And so I will be, my colleague Jeff and I will be talking a bit about our Parent Educator Academy as a pathway to do that, and then our data from our annual MAPA report as well. And you can go ahead and hit the next slide. Thank you so much. Awesome. So just a little bit of context as to why we came to exist. So All in Education is really focused on the Latino student population here in Arizona. As one of the largest demographic blocks in our student population, we truly believe that Arizona not only has a moral imperative to support Latino student achievement, but we also have an economic imperative. And data from economists tells us that if we were to reduce the Latino dropout rate by half, the additional graduates would actually earn $31 million, which translates to $23 million in spending annually for the state. And so truly, when we look at the data sets that my colleague Jeff will highlight, we really believe that we have to focus on closing these attainment gaps for the economic future of Arizona. Go ahead. And so if we're going to do that, one of the things that we highlight in MAPA is the underrepresentation of the Latino student population. So while we are 45% of Arizona's K-12 student population, we make up 14% of state education board members and 16% of school administrators and 16% of the teaching workforce. So there's a real gap in representation at who's making decisions both in the classroom and in boardrooms across the state. And so we believe that if we're going to close the opportunity gaps that exist in Arizona, we also have to be mindful of the representation gaps that exist. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Jeff, who will walk through the data from MAPA. I believe that we could go forward.
All right, and good morning, everyone. This is Jeff Zatino. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present. And you could, real quick plug, you could find our MAPA report on our website, allineducation.org/MAPA. If we could go on to the next slide, please. So what we saw is, I'm sure everyone's aware that the pandemic hit every student hard. From 2019 to 2021, we saw a precipitous drop in math proficiency and also English literacy and proficiency scores. What we see here is that we have white students at the top. We have all students, so the average of every student in Arizona. And then below that, we have a clumping of Latino students and students of low socioeconomic status. And then below that, we have our English language learners and special education. And what we wanted to highlight here is the trend that over these past 5 years, there's persistent gaps between these different populations. Everyone's been affected by the pandemic, but these gaps are persistent throughout time for these past, since 2015 and before that. If we could go on to the next slide, please. We see it in math, and we also see it in reading. These same trends, that there's a persistent gap and that all students were affected by the pandemic. If we could go on to the next one. And as Stephanie was mentioning, there's a large percentage of Latino students within the Arizona education system. And as we go into earlier years, so this is elementary school enrollment by ethnicity, we see over 65% of the student body being made up of Latino students, which again, we see the shortening of the education gap or the academic achievement gap, not as a moral decision or a moral strategy, but more of a pragmatic approach to making sure that we're all successful as a whole state. Next slide, please. In one of our first decisions as an organization back in 2019 was right when the pandemic was hitting. So this is around March 2019, before the full impact of the pandemic. We embarked on a series of statewide community conversations where we solicited information from our Latino parents through television, radio, social media avenues to hear exactly what it was that our Latino parents were experiencing. And we learned these five bullet points. We saw that there was a lack of communication from school systems in both English and in Spanish formats. We saw that there was a lack of access to technology in the form of devices and reliable internet. Parents didn't feel supported as we transitioned to at-home learning. Families faced huge economic challenges, and families were really concerned about special education and English language learners falling even further behind when they weren't going to have access to the resources at school. So one more slide, please. And one of the things that came up was a solution to address the challenge of the moment was this Parent Educator Academy. And I'll hand it off to Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So what, early on in those conversations, one thing that we learned is how critical the relationship between school and family is. The relationship between educators and parents has to be really strong in order for students to be successful. And so when there isn't that strong foundation of a relationship between the schoolhouse and the home, what we saw happen in real time during school closures is these massive breakdowns in communication. By the time I and my colleague Jeff were on the phone with parents in mid-May, we were the first people talking in Spanish to parents about their child's education since schools had closed in mid-March. So you can imagine what the other end of the phone sounded like. Parents were extremely frustrated, confused. We had parents in tears, just wanting answers for their students and wanting to know how they can be supportive partners in the education journey for their children. And so they didn't have that. And so out of all of these conversations, our team started ideating internally, having conversations about what can we do to really meet the moment. And that is where this idea of Parent Educator Academy came to fruition. What we learned from parents is that they wanted to be a support for the education system. They just didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to navigate it. And so that is really where the foundation of PEA came came up to be. It is an introductory leadership development program for parents and caregivers who really want to strengthen their skills and help their students navigate both the virtual classroom at the time, but also, just the traditional in-person learning environment. How can our parents and caregivers really be partners to the education system? And that's what PEA is doing. Go ahead and hit the next slide. So we're actually launching today our third cohort. We're about in 25 schools now. We are intentionally going into schools that serve high populations of Latino, Black, and Native American families. A majority of the students that we are serving and parents that we are working with qualify for free and reduced price lunch. Our partners are really committed to building a more equitable and just education system. And so those are the school partners that we are collaborating with. Next slide. So the topics that we cover in PEA, we really focus on parent and school engagement. So really helping to build that relationship, because we saw how important the relationship between school and family is. We're working on building authentic community relationship and engagement, communication, increasing communication between school staff and parents. We are also supporting parents with navigating and understanding the education system, how it's structured, how it functions, and how it works. The curriculum foundational skills. So parents are also learning how to be a support for their children at home. So how to provide early literacy instruction, reading development at home. And this in this spring cohort, we're actually going to add a math advocacy component so parents can truly be a partner in that math skills support. Again, navigating the classroom, navigating school districts and school and charter schools. So it's really important for parents. A lot of our families, they just don't even know that there is any person beyond their child's teacher that they can go to ask for additional support and resources. And so giving them that foundational understanding of how the system is structured, who decision makers are, and how they can get additional support for their families has been really an important component to the program. And then our parents have also asked us for additional support and resources, a lot of requests around social emotional support, mental health, and well-being for their children and their families. And then they also want information to college readiness and how to successfully transition their students from middle school to high school and high school to college. So those are the additional resources that provide the enrichment of the curriculum. Go ahead. Next slide. So these are just some slides. So one thing that we ask our parents to do as they're engaging in the program is to post about it, talk about it. And so what we've seen is that their increase in confidence, I think, is the thing that I'm so incredibly proud of. They start PEA, cameras off, really shy, reserved. Everything is delivered on Zoom and virtually. And then they graduate the academy and they are, we can't get them to stop talking. They're networking with each other, they're collaborating with each other, and then they post about what they're doing at home. So this is them posting about reading at home with their students. Go ahead, next slide. And then I think we go, just some more pictures here of our graduates. You can go ahead and hit the next slide. So some of the outcomes that we've seen, our parents are, really have an increase in their own self-confidence. As I mentioned, their self-efficacy has really increased. Ability to communicate more effectively with their students' teachers is something that we have seen significantly increase. We've also seen an increase in enrollment. So we started our first cohort with 27 parents who graduated in spring of 2021. Our fall program, we had almost 400 applications. We admitted 103 parents and graduated 91 parents in December. This spring, again, working closely with school partners, we identified almost 300 parents to participate. We still have limited capacity, but we're able to admit around, I believe our final numbers are just over 100 parents again for this spring cohort. Our parents are graduating, telling us that they feel like they're now a part of the education journey and really feel more of a partner for their kids' teachers. And so that increase in engagement and participation has been really powerful. Our parents are actually attending the academy at 90% attendance, and we're graduating them at 90% graduation as well. So we're excited about where this is headed because it's truly engaging content and curriculum that parents are getting involved with. And then the last slide I have, go ahead. Oh, just some additional outcomes, as I mentioned here. They definitely have an increase in improvement in the communication. They're increasing their ability to navigate the classroom, both virtually and in person. One of my favorite stories came from a mom who just, in the virtual classroom, her child was really shy naturally by nature. And so in the virtual classroom, when he would get called on, it would cause him to kind of tense up, freeze, and turn off the computer. And after we did an exercise with parents, asking them to create a student profile and then go have a one-on-one conversation with the teacher, mom and teacher had a conversation, and by the next day they tried a different approach together, and the child just lit up. And she said to us in focus groups, like, it was just a night and day difference of just tweaking one little thing. And she said it was incredibly powerful because her having that conversation with the teacher then changed the course of the rest of the academic year for mom, teacher, and child, right? Instead of all three of them living in frustration for the entire year, now they're collaborating with each other. And because of it, the student is more engaged in the content. And so those are the stories that we are getting from parents and outcomes that we're seeing as a result of PEA. Go ahead and hit the next slide. A little messed up here, but just, this is an important data for us. So one thing that we did see is that our parents are self-reporting an increase in their own confidence to communicate with teachers. So we mentioned that the communication was really critical. They start about 80% confident communicating with teachers. They're graduating 95% confident. Similarly with administrators, 76% start, and they're graduating 93% confident. And then the most significant growth that you see here is with governing board members. A lot of them don't know that what a governing board member is, or that a charter or a district have boards. And so this is they start 55% confident and graduate 85% confident in communicating with board members. So again, just that self-efficacy and agency is what we're seeing as a significant increase. And Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Steph. So we wanted to show this map. This is a map that we published in our first MAPA report that shows areas with high concentration of Latino students. Those are represented through the per zip code. So the darker the blue in a zip code, the larger amount of Latino students within those schools. And the dots represent school rankings. So the darker the dot, the lower the school ranking, and the lighter the dot, the higher the school ranking. So we see this overlap between an area that has a high concentration of Latino students being associated with lower ranked schools. And the reason that we brought up this map and why we published it in our first MAPA report is that, yes, we want to make sure that parents are being connected with their local school system, but we want to start thinking about not only the students' environment to learn, but also that school system's environment in which they teach, right? So the connection between environmental and social factors with a student's ability to learn and to achieve. So just really quickly, a little bit about myself. I got a master's in social work, graduated with a BA in psychology, but that wasn't the initial plan. I think and I don't know if I've shared this before, but my initial plan was really to go to med school and become a doctor. I was born in California, Los Angeles, an area, Bell, California, an area that looks a lot like South Phoenix and Maryvale. A lot of low socioeconomic status, a lot of high percentage of Latino students. And I was lucky enough because of a college guidance counselor that really took me under his wing and basically got me into college, helped me fill out the FAFSA because my parents weren't able to do it. My parents come from Mexico and El Salvador, immigrants to the United States, and they were just not able to fill out that FAFSA application. He helped me out. He got me into college, which was a huge, milestone in not only my life, but in my family's life. But as soon as I started hitting those first classes my freshman year, it was a shock to my system, my personal value of myself, a shock of cold water, seeing how I didn't have the same tools and same opportunities that my peers around me did. I took a philosophy class because I liked philosophy, but I immediately felt that I didn't have the communication skills nor the writing skills necessary to succeed in that class. I took a chemistry class, and I had taken AP chemistry in high school, but it was taught by a 25-year-old teacher. And when I got to college level chemistry, I failed out of that class. So like my plans were completely derailed. And if it wasn't for a strong network of friends, I would have dropped out of college. But by the fourth year, I was getting straight A's. I was taking evolutionary psychology, biopsych courses, getting straight A's. So I caught up. But what we're seeing is that we need to support these students within these areas that are high Latino population, high poverty, and really start to think about what are those social factors in which these school systems are embedded. Because as we saw in the earlier slides on math proficiency and English literacy, there's this huge gap. And the gap isn't because Latino students don't have the same propensity to learn or capacity to learn as their white peers. It's just that we're creating this bifurcated education system where some students get access to tools and opportunity while other students don't. So when we talk about the social embeddedness of these schools, we're talking about the social determinants of education, a concept and an idea that's borrowed from the social determinants of health, where health doesn't only happen in the doctor's office. We understand that education doesn't only happen within the school classroom. We know that social factors like poverty, healthcare, mental health, the school to prison pipeline, housing, food insecurity, immigration, climate, and environmental factors, and the economy impact not only the student's ability to learn, but also the school system's ability to teach. And this is a concept that we explore within our second MAPA report, and a concept that we'll be fully digging a little bit deeper in through our Pa Que Sepas recorded meetings and deep dives into each one of these social determinants of health. And we know that school systems and communities are going to need as much support and as much leadership as we're investing in our Parent Educator Academy. And that's why we're investing in other leadership programs like Adelante and Listo. Stephanie, do you want to talk about Adelante and Listo?
Yeah, I'll talk about Adelante here. So Adelante is a 10-month fellowship for next generation emerging leaders in Arizona. Really, they're taking a journey to truly understand the education system, what it means to be an advocate, how policies are formed, how the education system works, and how politics influences the education system. We have a cohort this year. We have 23 fellows in the cohort. Actually, Serena Campos is one of our fellows. They're truly taking a deep dive. And I think what's important about Adelante is that they are all learning why they have a personal passion and commitment themselves for creating a more equitable education system, and truly being able to speak from a values-based perspective on why we as a community will come together to create the system that we're all dreaming about. And so our Adelante fellows are incredibly inspiring. They will graduate from their program in May. And we are hoping to actually have them pitch. They've been working on some solutions to real deep systemic challenges, absenteeism in the education system, for example. How do we solve for that? And so they've been doing research and are putting together their own ideas, and we're hoping that they will present their ideas to a community of stakeholders in May when they graduate. So that's Adelante. And we also have a 3-month academy called Listo, Leaders in Support of Transformation Opportunities, also translates to ready in Spanish. Listo is our folks that are already in positions of power in the education system. So board members, current cabinet members, district or school administrators, who are learning about data-driven governance. So if we're going to get outcomes, we have to be data-driven, values-based leaders, and they are learning about how to use data to make those decisions that will ultimately close the gaps at the local level. And so that's Listo. And then just to close us out, the final slide, Jeff mentioned you can download a copy of the full MAPA report at allineducation.org/MAPA. Invite you to do that. And please, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer questions and also happy to follow up after this presentation. So thank you so much. President Lee, I'll turn it back to you.
Wow, this is just, I'm just floored. This is so incredible, the work that you guys are doing, and particularly with parents. I'm always talking to people, and just even my friends, of how blessed, that my children are, just because I'm in education. And so I have the confidence. I think that was a great slide that you had, just the confidence to talk to, my kids' teachers or principals, and I know what a governing board is. And so many of my friends just have no clue. And so what you're doing is great work. I wish we could replicate you, just even, you guys saw after the first one to have 400, parents apply. There's clearly just a massive need for this across the board. So I just appreciate everything that you guys are doing, and hope we can figure out how to get even more parent cohorts going, because this is truly, powerful and important work. So thank you guys so much for being here and presenting, and just for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. Okay, board members, are there any other questions? Okay. All right. With that, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be removed from the consent agenda, or anybody that needs to recuse themselves? And if not, is there a motion?
President Lee, I'll make a motion. This is Hans.
Thanks.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
This is Board Member Stratton. I will second.
Perfect. Thank you. Aaron with the roll call.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you. Okay, with that, we are on to charter amendments. We have Liberty Traditional Charter School. We're going to go ahead and have Rachel introduce them, and then we will ask the charter to unmute themselves after that time. Rachel, go for it.
Good morning, President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman. Liberty Traditional Charter School, Inc. has submitted a request to add a new school to its contract and increase its enrollment cap from 595 to 750. The charter holder plans to open the new school in Marana with the intention of operating at a school site where there is an existing charter that plans to close at the end of the year. The new school plans to serve the existing student population with a planned increase in the current enrollment across all grades and a strong focus on growth in the lower grades. The charter holder does not meet the staff recommendation criteria due to not having a trend in enrollment that demonstrates a need for an enrollment cap. However, it is important to note that the addition of a new school will likely put the charter holder over its current enrollment cap of 595. I would like to add that due to the delicate situation this charter is in with essentially taking over a school site, this amendment was a bit more complicated than a typical submission. The charter holder was very responsive to our substantive feedback and comprehensively provided everything that was requested by board staff. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Board members, are there any other questions? Okay, if not, then it does look like the charter is on the line. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, state your name for the record and any statement you'd like to make.
Sure. Hello, my name is Raina James, and I'm the charter representative. And I just want to thank the board, President Lee, Vice President Close, for having us, and the board staff that has helped us get here today. We are requesting that we are granted an additional site We were approached this summer with this school that's closing. We have a relationship with them, and they were trying to find a great solution. We've been in the charter school business for 20 years. And I think this would be a really great addition to our charter. If you have any questions, I have my team here. I got Chris Johnson, Jackie Trujillo, and Billy Rubash.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Board members, do we have any questions? Okay, I don't either. I just, I think it was already kind of mentioned to us about the enrollment cap issue. And that, well, you know what I do have a question. So you guys are going to be taking over, not taking over, that's the wrong word, but starting a campus and probably absorbing, or however you want to do that, enrolling most of the students that are there. What kind of unique challenges do you think that presents, since those aren't students like that are coming up in your program, right? Like, and then how do you just plan to address that?
Good morning. I'm Chris Johnson. Those are great questions. A couple of the areas that we have that we're going to need to focus on really early is training teachers on our curriculum that's different than what they're currently using, and helping them to understand the interventions that are going to be most effective with students who are brand new to that curriculum. So we'll spend the summer, at least a couple of weeks during the summer, to work with teachers to make sure that we've given them enough training that they're able to help students and create a strong Title I program within that area so that we can start interventions immediately.
That's really great. Do you plan on then absorbing a lot of the staff there too?
Yeah, we would love to absorb as many of the staff that would like to stay, and as many of the students that would like to stay. And we'd like to, that's why we'd like to get this done as early as possible so that we can start working with them positively.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's great. No, I just wanted to get that answer, and it sounds like you guys are prepared. I love the idea of lots of training, and I just think that's really important. That's always so hard when you're starting a new school, really kind of, starting with your culture, especially when you have a new school, new staff, new students, all the things. So it sounds like you guys are prepared for that. Yeah, awesome. Okay, with that, then, is there a motion?
Sure, President Lee, this is Board Member Close. I move, based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today, to approve the request to add a new school to the contract of Liberty Traditional Charter School, Inc., entity ID 10968, and to increase the enrollment cap from 595 to 750 in FY 2023.
Is there a second?
I second. This is Board Member Stratton.
Great, thank you. Aaron with the roll call.
Absolutely. Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you guys for being here. Thanks. Okay. With that, it looks like we're going to move on to agenda item J1. So we have charter renewals, and first up is Candeo Schools.
Good morning. This is Lori Reed, Candeo's Education Program Manager. Good morning, President Lee, Vice President Close, Superintendent Hoffman. Candeo, excuse me just a moment. Candeo Schools, Inc., entity 89758, submitted a charter renewal application package on January 3rd, 2022 to continue operation of Candeo Peoria, serving grades K through 8 in Peoria. As a part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Candeo Peoria on January 27th, 2022, and a pop-in visit on December 6th, 2021. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract were reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The review found compliance issues with the charter holder's fingerprint clearance cards and move on when reading compliance. Each of these issues has been brought into compliance. Additionally, the review identified issues with the charter holder's enrollment policies violating ARS 15184, ARS 15841, and ARS 15872. The charter holder is still working with board staff to bring these issues fully into compliance. The charter holder currently meets the board's academic, operational, and financial performance expectations. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Board members, are there any questions for Lori before we invite the charter holder? Okay. You know what, Lori, I have one question. We still have one part that's not in compliance, but I know it's in here in the document. I read it in the prep materials. When is that due to become, when's the due date for their compliance for that piece?
President Lee, I can actually address that for you.
Okay,
it is my understanding that they have submitted everything. Unfortunately, the EPS that processes those documents was on vacation last week, so we have not taken a look at them, but they were working to bring everything in compliance. It was literally the delay was that they needed to work with their online, like their Synergy or whatnot, to get a certain piece of their enrollment documentation corrected. And that's just it's a time sensitive process that takes a little work. So we are confident that they are going to have that in compliance. It probably is at this point.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can't believe that people would go on vacation, but that's, no, I'm just kidding. Okay. No problem. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So with that, is there a charter representative from Candeo Schools? If so, if you'd like to unmute yourself at this time, state your name for the record, and then any statement you'd like to make.
Sure. Good morning. This is Stephanie Musser, founder and CEO of Candeo Schools. Thank you for having me and for this opportunity to present just a statement. President Lee and Vice President Close, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board, just first, thank you for the work that you do. The energy behind it is inspiring, and I'm proud to stand with you. It's been an honor and a privilege to have led this school for the past 15 years. I've worked happily and tenaciously to deliver on the promise of this charter. That means a lot to me that you know that. And I'm proud of what it's accomplished, and our work is not finished. I can tell you, I'm as excited now as I was 15 years ago upon the school's founding for what lies ahead and for what the school can contribute and accomplish. With that, thank you for the opportunity to serve, and I am happy to take any questions that you might have or clarify some of the things that have been brought up in compliance.
Board members, are there any questions for the charter holder? I think the only question I have is, so what have you guys changed in regards to like your processes or structure? So things like MAUR, those, the compliance with the enrollment policies, like, that's kind of getting caught preemptively versus, kind of having to be corrected on a check-in kind of process from the board.
Sure. I'm happy to address that. First, in practice, our enrollment policies and procedures were more an issue of verbiage than practice. So our practice has never eliminated anyone based on an application. So we just had verbiage of the whole process with enrollment, where enrollment is the first part. So our application has never been something that has caused a problem for a yes or a no for an offer. Post that, we had one document that parents had actually asked us to help with, which was, to delineate all of the forms that would come through this entire process. At the top of it, it said enrollment process, but this is after there was a yes and an offer, a yes to an application. So on 4 of the 5 issues of enrollment, it centered on the fact that checklist document said enrollment process, but it was never part of the application process. It was just in the registration of getting the school files. So that was just an issue of verbiage. So let's see, on MOWR, we had 3 different schedules. 2 of them were correct. One that was pulled was incorrect. So we were not operating in a deficient manner with regard to those minutes and the requirements of MOER. It's just that it was the wrong schedule. So the correct draft of the schedule was provided to the staff. And then finally on fingerprint clearance cards, we were under the two that weren't there were staff who were not on campus, and they were IT staff that are remote and they are vendors. So we believed from statute that a fingerprint clearance card is for instructional staff and supervision, and they have none of that, but they did have a fingerprint check. And that's how it's always been operating. So those were the two in question. So regardless, based on the board's recommendation for that, or based on the finding in the renewal process, we went ahead and got fingerprint clearance cards for them. And I think that addresses the three things that you talked about.
It does. Yeah, no, and thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, that answers all my questions. I just kind of wanted to see exactly kind of what that process was. Board members, do we have any other questions?
President Lee, this is Kathy Hoffman.
Please.
One question I had when I was looking through the materials was, could you just talk to us about the enrollment decline? And then I also noticed that your average teacher pay also had a small decline. If you could just talk through those two changes as well.
Sure. The enrollment decline, I believe, came from, as far as the information that we have, came from mostly parents who wanted to go into a fully online program, and we didn't have something that was a full-time enrollment program for online. So that was a lot of what it was. Other than that, I don't have an answer for it. I think that, people just, in the uproar of the pandemic, I think a lot of choices were in front of people, and some fear and misunderstanding. And so that probably played a part. Let's see, you said enrollment, and you said
teacher pay.
Pardon?
The average teacher salary.
The average teacher salary actually went up. So when it's average, it's taking it from all of it. So we had a few longtime 15-year veterans with the school leave, who were the higher salaries from the time that they had spent. So that would have played into the average, but everyone had a 5% increase last year. And every year since inception, we have increased, even in the slow years of 2008 to 2000, I think it was 13, we offered large, on average, 6% over time to teachers, even when districts had halted their increases. So we have never not provided a fair and even substantial increase, not once.
Thank you for the explanation. I was just looking at this from your website, that there had been a 3% decline in the average teacher salary, but I hear what you're saying about the more experienced teachers left.
Right. In the average, yes. So if we would have taken it from, year to year with those returning, you would have seen 5% on that year alone. But prior to that, of course, the 20% came through over 3 years.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Board members, any other questions? Okay. If not, then is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Board Member Close. I move, based on a review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package, to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Candeo Schools, Inc., entity ID 89758.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Board Member Stratton.
Thank you, Member Stratton. And Aaron, with roll call, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Ling.
Hi.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Up next, and in fact, our next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be Imagine Charter Schools. We are taking them separately, but Sandy will be up here for all of them. So first up, we have Imagine Avondale Elementary. Sandy,
good morning. I'm Sandy Mitchell, Education Program Manager. President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman. Imagine Avondale Elementary, Inc. submitted a charter renewal application package on November 9th, 2021 to continue operation of Imagine Avondale Elementary, serving grades K through 5 in Avondale. As part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Imagine Avondale Elementary on January 27, 2022, and a pop-in visit on January 18, 2022. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract are reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The charter holder had one issue with fingerprinting that has since been brought into compliance. The charter holder currently meets the board's academic, operational, and financial performance expectations. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Sandy, can you just clarify what the fingerprint issue was? If you know, I can ask the charter holder too.
I can if you give me just a second.
No problem.
I apologize. I guess I wasn't prepared for the question.
We can clarify if needed.
Yeah, Sandy, don't worry about it. I'll ask if they should answer that question anyway, Sandy. So let me move on to them. So charter, if you guys, it sounds like that you guys are on the record or are on the line. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name for the record, any statement you'd like to make, and then address the fingerprint clearance card issue for me.
Yes.
Thank you. This is Monty Lang. I'll go ahead and kind of give a general overview for both Brad and myself, and that'll serve as an intro for all of our charters that are before you today. And then I will let April and Brenda answer your question if that's okay. Good afternoon, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board. On behalf of myself, Monty Lang, and Brad Uchaz, charter representatives, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share our stories. We begin discussions regarding our charter renewals today. We would also like to thank all of the staff at the Arizona State Board for Charter Schools for their assistance in the renewal process. It was very easy. They worked well with us. They were supportive and answered all of our questions as we worked through the process. It's really hard to believe that we have another 5 schools that have been around for 15 years. Seems like just yesterday I was working with Dr. Hall to submit those charter petitions to the charter board when one of our own people is even on staff at the board. Currently, Imagine Schools is in partnership with our local boards, serving about 8,000 students with 19 charters on 14 campuses in Arizona. We serve a unique purpose in our communities and strive for excellence in all we do. Nearly 70% of the children we serve qualify for free or reduced meals, and all of our schools are accredited. For me, this is a symbol of what is happening in the lives of the students and families that we serve. Learning is coming alive for all of our students. Growth is taking place. Transformation is occurring, one child, one life at a time. Even in the midst of the pandemic, student growth was occurring. I'm the first one to tell you that we have much more work to do, but I look at where our schools, our teachers, our school leaders, and students began, and I see the progress they have made. It's a good foundation and one that will support greater growth and future success. Even in the middle of a pandemic, we've seen students grow academically, socially, and emotionally. Much like a public school district, Imagine has an organizational structure comprised of regional teams that provide operational and academic support to all of our schools beyond the leadership at each site. Our Southwest team is comprised of 2 executive vice presidents, 4 regional directors, 3 regional academic directors, and a multitude of support team members that systemically builds the collective capacity of leaders, academic coaches, and teachers across the region, which promotes a culture of excellence as it is identified in each of our sites' school excellence plans. In a nutshell, our team fosters conversations to support optimal teaching and learning across all of our schools. We are steadfast in continuously reflecting to determine where our cycles of support are most effective, where we can improve, and what factors are impacting the school's success. We appreciate the opportunity for our schools to tell you their stories today during this renewal hearing. Thank you for the opportunity to address each one of you. We ask for your support in Renew and Imagine's charters today. And thank you for giving our teachers and students a chance to continue the hard work and progress they have made. Thank you. And at this time, I will turn it over to April and others on our team.
Good morning. My name is April Blatzheim. I'm a regional director working directly with Imagine Avondale. I'll allow Brenda to introduce herself.
Yes, good morning. I'm Brenda Zeiss. I am the current principal at Imagine Avondale. We'd be happy to address your first question about the fingerprint cards. During the review, we did notice 3 of our paraprofessionals, although they had a valid level 1 fingerprint card, they did not have an IVP or a card with an IVP number issued to them. At the time, we did have them covering in classrooms due to the staff shortage that we had, but we quickly rectified that, made sure we had them working under the supervision with someone with a valid fingerprint card with an IVP number on it. And all 3 of those staff members have since then received new updated cards with IVP numbers on it.
And that's great. Can you tell me maybe what, and maybe this isn't directed towards the school, but it sounds like, you have maybe this district set up, for lack of a better word. And I guess what processes have changed since this to catch that? Just because I feel like we've given lots and lots of guidance about fingerprint clearance cards. I feel like, we have, board staff send that in almost every newsletter, I feel like now, about the IVP cards. I'm just, what have you guys done to kind of, obviously you rectified the situation immediately, which is important, but how do we not get there again? So what processes have changed? Hopefully that question makes sense. But.
Yeah, it does make sense. And thank you for the question. So the first thing we did is go out to all of our surrounding sister schools and say, please go back and verify IVP cards for any of the instructional staff. And now we also have added that to our 10-day audit process, that IVP specifically piece. In our checklist, we had a very comprehensive checklist, but unfortunately we did not have the IVP card in that at the time. So we went back and added it. So now for any, it's a HR process for any of our new hires, but it's also in our 10-day audit, just in case anybody falls through a loop there too.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. Board members, are there any other questions for the charter holder? Oh, I couldn't tell if somebody unmuted themselves. Okay, I do have a question, and I don't want to ask this question to I'll ask this, well, okay, you can answer this either school specific or you can answer this as a whole. Sorry, Avondale, that you're up first, but you draw the lucky straw. Okay, so when going through your charters in the renewal, I think it's typical to say that a lot of schools and a lot of students had learning loss, due to COVID. I think, that's what we've seen across the board. But what I noticed something about your schools in particular, that you had much more significant learning loss in math than your ELA. And so I'm just curious if you could kind of address maybe why you think that is. I mean, obviously, you obviously had loss due to COVID. It just seemed way more drastic in your math kind of across the board. So I found that to be interesting. And then maybe what are you doing? What does your program look like now to, and that could be, site specific, but what does your program look like now to, address that huge gap and particularly in math?
Well, the first thing I'd say to that is absolutely, we noticed the same thing, that we had a significant greater gap in math than in the ELA data. And one of the things that we've done is tried to drill down into that. One of the conversations we've had, though, is that when students were remote, and we were back and forth remote throughout COVID, when they were remote, parents were more able to help in the areas of reading. It's a much more straightforward process, it seemed, for our parents, especially with a level of skill and application for math. And so it was easier to get that support and that partnership with our parents. So part of that is the gap. I think the other piece to your question though is how are we responding to that? And that would be, site to site, but all of our schools are looking at the data and drilling down and trying to respond to those gaps significantly, including summer school, intervention groups, doing tier 1 and tier 2 groups, all of those things. So I'll let Brenda answer that specifically for Avondale.
Yes, I'd be happy to share a little bit about our work with particularly math instruction and getting our students caught up in areas of mathematics. We did some work over the past summer with both our new academic coach and some teacher input, where we aligned our math curriculum, which is Engage New York, to our own regional pacing guide. And we even went as far as working with the publishing company, kind of restructuring how it's organized and ensuring that it's in full alignment with our pacing guide, so we can use our benchmark, our Galileo benchmark data, to really drill in and look at both that curriculum alignment, but then, instructionally, what do we need to do different? Our teachers do meet in PLC meetings. We talk about math on like a bi-weekly basis, really focusing on that formative data. Again, with our academic coach, they're kind of discussing intervention strategies, ways to help students with math foundational skills. We're really finding that that lack of that foundational skills, basic arithmetic, and just ways to get students caught up, working in small groups with them, working with our paraprofessionals with them, planning some work in our summer school, really focusing more on math instruction. With that work, we did notice we were at a 12% state average on our state assessment last year. Right now, our predicted proficiency is at a 27%. So although that's not nearly where we used to be, we know we are, on that upward trend where we are making growth from that 12% of where we were last year.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question I'm having.
Oh, no, sorry. Okay, I thought I interrupted you guys. Okay, sorry. No, that's great. And do all of Imagine schools, do you guys all use the same math curriculum, or is it site determined?
It is site determined. We do have similarities across many of our schools, but it is site-based curriculum choices.
Okay, great. And what sort of math intervention programs do you use at Imagine Avondale, if any? So like Math IXL or, those types of things. Do you have any that you purchase and implement?
Currently, we do not. However, we are looking at using our ESSER $3 at purchasing iReady, which is an online both assessment and intervention and enrichment tool. So using our ESSER $3 for that for both summer and then next school year.
Great. No, that's good. Okay. Awesome. All right, board members, are there any other questions? Okay. Yeah, with that, just a comment, definitely just, keep focusing on those math scores. It sounds like you guys are making, you're making some gains, with the Galileo. Definitely encourage. Yeah, it looks like you're already looking into some sort of supplemental program. Those I personally found that those are really nice as a teacher, so I don't have to try to differentiate for every single student in the classroom. But if a program can help me out a little bit, it takes the burden off and can help support your parents who are pushing into. So sounds like you guys are doing that. With that, if there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Board Member Close. I'll make a motion. I move, based on a review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package, to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Imagine Avondale Elementary, Inc.
There's a second.
I'll second. This is Board Member Stratton.
I think Dr. Crockett beat you, so we're going to give it to her. But but thank you, Erin. Is there a roll call? Please?
Absolutely. Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
My vote is aye, and I just want to say I just ditto to everything that President Lee was saying, and I know that the math decline issues have been statewide and one of the biggest challenges that we've seen the past couple of years, but definitely want all our schools to be staying laser focused on what the solutions will be going forward. But my vote is aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, up next we have Imagine Coolidge Elementary. And
President Lee.
Yes, go for it, Sandy, sorry.
Sorry, President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman. Imagine Coolidge Elementary, Inc. submitted a charter renewal application package on November 9th, 2021 to continue operation of Imagine Coolidge Elementary, serving grades K through 5 in Coolidge. As part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Imagine Coolidge Elementary on February 10th, 2022, and a pop-in visit on February 15th, 2022. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract are reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The charter holder was in compliance in all areas. The charter holder currently meets the board's academic, operational, and financial performance expectations. I am available for questions if you have any.
Great, board members, any questions for Sandy? Okay, if not, then I know there's a charter representative on the line, and I know you guys made a general statement, so don't feel like you need to make a general statement for every single school, but you're more than welcome to make a statement because I know each of your schools are different, but feel free to unmute yourself at the time, state your name for the record, and then any statement you'd like to make.
Thanks, President Lee. We'll go ahead and turn it over to the local team.
Perfect.
Good morning, President Lee, Vice President Close, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board. I'm Eric Collins, the principal at Imagine Coolidge Elementary School. Imagine Coolidge was established in the rural community of Coolidge, Arizona in 2008. We educate nearly 650 students in preschool through 5th grade. In 2013, we became a Title I school and accredited by Advanced Ed in 2018. We offer our families a seamless education from elementary through graduation as they transition to our amazing sister school, Imagine Prep Coolidge. 55% of our students at the elementary school are Hispanic, 18% Caucasian, 15% African American, 10% Native American, and 2% Asian. 14% of our students are English learners, while 9% receive special education services. Our free and reduced rate is nearly 80%. Our positive relationships with families and strong partnerships in Coolidge and the surrounding areas have helped us to increase our enrollment by 86 students compared to last school year. We have been able to host 19 traditional family events this year that have all been well attended. We provide transportation and operate 9 bus routes daily. Students are bused in from 6 different cities and the Gila River Indian Reservation. Imagine Coolidge increased its letter grade from a C to a B in 2018 and has maintained highly performing status since. COVID-19 brought challenges academically, and unfortunately, we saw a significant drop in state testing data in the spring of 2021. 12% of our students scored proficient for math and 24% in reading. Based on our analysis from our achievement data from the 2020-21 school year, we identified the following action steps to address these areas of need. We increased our daily instructional minutes to reflect an additional 45 hours of instruction this year. We provide teachers with job-embedded professional development to improve Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction. We created an intervention system to address reading and math deficiencies. Currently, 100 students in kindergarten through 2nd grade receive 30 minutes of targeted reading intervention, and 200 students in 2nd through 5th grade for math every day. We also adopted a math curriculum to address our low proficiency with our math data. As a result of these action steps, student growth and achievement have increased within the first quarters of this school year. 1st, 3rd, and 4th graders have increased their proficiency percentages for reading, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th for math compared to last year, as evidenced by our Galileo data. The number of students in kindergarten through 3rd grade scoring at low risk from benchmark 1 to 2 increased, as evidenced by our FastBridge data. Based on our students' academic performance so far this year, the STAR assessment system has predicted that 29% of 3rd through 5th grade students will score proficient in reading and 32% in math. These numbers represent an increase of 17% for reading and 20% for math. In addition to providing our students with rigorous academics, we offer our students physical education, music, art, media, and character education. Because of our commitment to character education since our school's inception, we were designated a National School of Character through character.org. In addition to our strong character program, we understand the importance of supporting our students' social and emotional growth. Therefore, this year we revised our school-wide behavior system and developed a multi-tiered approach to support all students and implemented weekly character education lessons. We provide students with opportunities to lead and participate in extracurricular activities such as student council, safety patrol, 4-H, and our sports program. During the 2021 school year, the Arizona Department of Education awarded our school the school safety and comprehensive literacy grants. The school safety grant provided us with funding to hire a school counselor, and the comprehensive literacy grant continues to help us support our literacy goals and initiatives. Our students' growth is attributed to our students' hard work, strategic academic systems, and intentional efforts of our loving staff. We are not only proud to be the highest performing elementary school in Coolidge, but we are committed to a strong academic and character program. We ask that the board renew Imagine Coolidge Elementary School's charter. This renewal will allow our students to continue to receive the best elementary educational experience in Coolidge. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you so much for that. And just two kind of shout outs. Thank you for being in compliance fully when charter board staff was there, and also just really appreciate, particularly in those rural communities, whenever schools are providing transportation. I think that's so important for families, particularly in your community where it's not as easy, I'm sure, to get to your school. There's not as many other forms of public transportation. And so charter schools do not have to do that. And so whenever we see charter schools doing that, it's just greatly appreciated. Okay, with that, board members, are there any questions for the charter? I had a couple, but your presentation actually answered them for me. So you are out of the hot seat for me anyway. It sounds like there might not be any other questions. And so if not, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Board Member Close. I move based on review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Imagine Coolidge Elementary, Inc.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, this is Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Aaron, with the roll call, please.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay, up next, we have Imagine Prep Coolidge. Sandy.
President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman. Imagine Prep Coolidge, Inc. submitted a charter renewal application package on February 23rd, 2022 to continue operation of Imagine Prep Coolidge, serving grades 6 through 12 in Coolidge. As part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Imagine Prep Coolidge on February 10th, 2022, and a pop-in visit on February 15th, 2022. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract are reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The charter holder was in compliance in all areas. The charter holder currently meets the board's operational and financial performance expectations, but does not meet the academic expectations due to being identified for targeted school improvement for FY 2019. I am available for questions if you have any.
Board members, are there any questions? Okay, if not, then the charter rep from Imagine Prep Coolidge, please unmute yourself at this time, state your name for the record and any statement you'd like to make.
Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board and participants of this meeting. I am Rachel Hernandez, the proud principal at Imagine Prep Coolidge. I'd like to express my gratitude for the opportunity to allow me to speak about why we are the best choice for students in our area. Our school of 505 diverse students sits on the northwest sector of the rural town of Coolidge, Arizona, neighboring the famous Casa Grande ruins. Coolidge currently has a population of just under 14,000 and growing. Prior to this year, we were surrounded by farmland and local dairies. However, with the influx of new industry, we are seeing significant growth with new housing popping up all around us. The future is bright in Coolidge, Arizona, and Imagine Prep Coolidge is the light for families who choose the option of a closer environment. We pride ourselves on making deep connections with students that support them both academically and emotionally. We are unique with our 6th through 12th grade structure and sister school Imagine Coolidge Elementary right next door with our kindergarten through 5th grade students. Imagine Schools in Coolidge offers a complete educational experience for our families, and we are lucky enough to be on the same campus. The prep offers a full range of athletics with opportunities for students of all abilities included in our programs. Our wrestling team boasts state champions, and many of our athletic programs make it to playoffs and beyond. We offer AVID, all levels of Spanish, art, music, early childhood development, and FFA as some of our electives. We also partner with Central Arizona Valley Institute of Technology, where our students can earn certificates to enter a range of careers right out of high school. IPC is Cabot's premier partner with the highest percentage of students in Pinal County coming from our school. Other partners include Gila River Indian Community, Pinal Junior Livestock Committee, the Coolidge Chamber, Central Arizona College, and Pinal Hispanic Council, to name a few. IPC has a 21st Century grant that allows us to offer before and after school programs, including academic tutoring, robotics, boxing, crafts, and competition cheer. We are happy that these enrichment opportunities further develop our students and strengthen our relationships on campus. As with all schools, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had our challenges and difficulties. As a new leadership team beginning in July of 2020, we've known nothing else aside from being in pandemic mode. At the onset of the pandemic, with the support of our regional team, we incorporated a curriculum that can be used both virtually and in the building. We've also been able to incorporate the instructional time model for our students so they are able to have access to full education regardless of their location. With student population that includes 100% free and reduced lunch, 13% English language learners, 12% special education students, and 17% Native American students, our academic programs require us to be targeted and strategic. Although last school year included pivots between remote and in-person learning models, our teachers gained new skills and shifted well with leadership and peer support. And our students and their families benefited from scheduled personalized support and continuous family connections. Returning to in-person learning fully this year, we knew our students would need additional opportunities to spiral learning that might have been missed the year prior. Our master schedule includes an academic workshop time for targeted interventions in reading and math, and for additional support for our English language learners. Upon analyzing our academic data, although we have much room to grow, we are seeing pockets of success to build upon. For example, our 6th and 12th grade language arts district benchmark data is showing significant growth this year, being at 15% and 14% respectively. As a team, a point of pride we have is our school culture. We've had the highest teacher return rate in several years coming into the 2021-2022 school year, and we're receiving feedback for a 90% return rate this coming year. We also have heard from our stakeholders that the culture in the building has taken a huge positive shift. The leadership team works diligently to model every aspect of our imagined shared values and leads from the front with expectations of our teachers. We don't ask teachers to do anything we wouldn't do ourselves. We encourage staff members to find their fit in the building, and this translates into excellence in their work and continued growth. We know that taking care of our staff means that they can work on the business of taking care of our students, which they do well. I appreciate this opportunity to engage with you about our wonderful school and ask that you renew the Imagine Prep Coolidge Charter so we can continue to serve within the Coolidge community. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess if you could just talk specifically about what you're doing in your academic program, maybe that's different or that's targeting that learning loss. I'm just a little concerned, with your math being at 6%, that's really low. And so, so could you just talk about maybe specifically what you've done, maybe just like in the last year as a response to this data?
Absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity to answer about this. We are also concerned about where our numbers are for math. So what we've done is we do have the academic workshop time. It's built into our master schedule, so our teachers can go back and spiral any missing learning. We also are using the Freckle program during that time, and also in some targeted small groups during the regular class time. We also plan on having summer school where we're really going to concentrate on math. Looking at our academic workshop time as well. Part of that programming is where students are able to go into those specific classes based on teacher data, and then those students rotate based on the standard as well, or the specific goal that the teacher is trying to get to with those kiddos. So we are working really hard to ensure that our teachers are understanding what that looks like, and then be able to look at the data in their classrooms and target students who are able to make some big gains if possible. So.
And how do you feel like your staff, like your teachers, do at processing data? So, like, for example, do you feel like there's a need to provide any professional development to your staff in regards to data analysis, you know, for your teachers?
Oh, absolutely. That's a continuous for us, ongoing throughout the year. Because we are a small school, we have one teacher per grade level per subject. So we are targeting what that looks like for them as well. And so we also like to differentiate the teacher learning as well. So we're going back and seeing where they are proficient or lacking in certain areas. And we are doing some individual coaching with that, but we also plan on having some more professional development along those lines to analyze the data.
Okay, great. And then I just have one more question, I think. So you have some interesting data in regards to your FAE. So, so students who are with you for 1 year, you know, have that certain kind of percentage, and then it increases rather drastically for your students who are with you for 2 years, which is great. But then decreases somewhat substantially. Oh, you know what? Well, okay, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to see if you do. And then it decreases for students who are with you for 3 years. So can you maybe talk about that?
I think the biggest impact on that for us in our building, as I stated in the statement, was that we didn't always have consistent folks to be in the classroom with students. And then the fact that we didn't have consistent curriculum until this last year, and it's going to look a little bit different based on the fact that it was remote and now we're in the building. And then being in that, being in a pandemic also increases that. But we did look at that, we did see that, and we're trying to make sure that that's not something that we continue moving forward. So.
Great. Yeah, I just realized, I'm like, yeah, that could probably be a little bit COVID induced as well. So, okay. Then this is actually, sorry, my last question. You're currently using the instructional time model for this school year? Is that accurate?
We did at the beginning of the year when our students need it, but yes, we do have it in place in case students are needing that as well. Yes. Do you know what percentage of students are typically, I guess, let me ask you the real question. I always ask people that. No, what's your real question? So my real question is what are you doing to support students who are using the ITM, and I'm assuming are fully online at that point? And it could be for a day or 2 days or, you know, a month, a week. I don't know in particular what your ITM is, but I guess just talk to me about how you're handling the transition of students kind of, you know, using that, taking advantage of that program, and then if you have any concerns, you know, with students being remote right now. Absolutely, thank you so much. We use the platform Coolidge, and so our students use that in the building if they need to, and then online. And so all of our teachers post their work daily, or just about daily, depending on if they have to do any subbing or anything like that. But they do post that, and they communicate with those students consistently. So if a student asks a question, teachers are able to answer that. And I think the biggest thing that came out of the pandemic last year was our teachers and their communication processes with families and students. We've been able to roll that into this year as well. And so they can do both. So they can answer some questions for kiddos who are in the building, and then they get on and they just do their magic and answer students who are also online. So they're able to do that pretty consistently. And then we do give grace periods for turning in assignments and those kinds of things in case students have any questions that they weren't able to have answered while they were online, because that can be difficult for students as well. So.
And President Lee, my name is Heidi Lindsay. I'm one of the regional directors. Our instructional time model is used only for students that have been, they have had to quarantine due to COVID, or they've been sick. So those are the only times that students are participating in the instructional time model.
Thank you for the clarification on that.
You're welcome.
Okay, board members, are there any other questions for this charter?
President Lee, this is Kathy Hoffman. I have some questions.
Please.
So first I was wondering, you mentioned summer school, and I'm wondering, is that required for especially students who, are you requiring any students to attend summer school, or is it just optional family by family choice?
We do have a process where we specifically target students and ask their parents to make sure that they're there. So we would like it to be required, although we know that families, especially with the shifts and things and some of the things that students have been through, they are going to take their vacations and they're going to do what they need to. But we do ask that specifically certain students come during summer school. And we have teachers reach out and explain why that's so for their students.
That's helpful to know, because I know sometimes when schools offer summer school, sometimes the kids who really need it the most don't show up, and that's probably still the case, right, even if families are on vacation. But I do think it's important to have that outreach. I noticed in your some of your historical documents that you used to supplement your staffing by working with ASU Prep, and I'm wondering, now in those positions like the physics and the high school math, do you have certified teachers, or how are you providing that level of instruction?
Yes, we always shoot for having a certified teacher on staff. We are not partnered currently with ASU Prep, but that can certainly be on the table at any time if needed. And we work really diligently with our teachers in the building for coaching cycles to ensure that they're where they need to be for the benefit of our students.
Let me rephrase my question. Do you currently have long-term sub-type certified teachers, or do you have people who specifically certified in those areas of math and physics teaching those classes?
Yes, we do. We have a few teachers who are also teachers in training on our campus as well.
Superintendent Hoffman, the teacher shortage has definitely impacted us, especially in rural communities in Coolidge. So it's been difficult over the years to recruit and retain certified teachers. So there have been times where we've had to bring in emergency certified teacher and work with them on, that corrective action plan to get them certified. We've tried different partnerships over the years to provide quality instruction. Our students really benefit from face-to-face, having a teacher there to build their relationships with them. But we've tried all different kinds of models to put the most effective person in front of them, in front of our students as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. I think that's what I was getting at too, was knowing that it's incredibly challenging to recruit for these positions, even in Phoenix, let alone in a rural community. So I just wanted to know what your status was as far as being able to fill those types of positions that are already hard to fill across the state. So I guess I have one question for board staff, just because I think there are a lot of concerns about the current academics for Imagine Prep Coolidge. So, today we're talking about renewal, but then what does the follow-up look like in terms of keeping track of the academic growth coming out of the pandemic? So to board staff, what will the follow-ups look like in order for board staff to be able, for board members to be able to keep track of their growth?
President Lee and Superintendent Hoffman. So we do anticipate having letter grades this upcoming, or I guess this current school year. And as such, we will update our academic framework and how we hold charters accountable. So although we haven't had letter grades in the past couple of years, we do anticipate all of our charters that receive letter grades will have new academic dashboards. And so we will maintain that. And then based on the letter grade that each of the charters does receive going forward, we will continue our follow-up under our existing processes.
Thank you so much. Those were my questions.
And Ashley, I actually have a follow-up question for that. Is there, I think, I kind of echo Superintendent Hoffman's, just concerns about the academics words in your mouth. I have concerns about the academics of this school in particular, and again, not for renewal purposes, because I think that, I think that's different, but is there anything we have in place? Well, I guess the letter grades, I'm just wondering if the board is there any precedent for the board maybe just having some concerns academically about a school and there being just a little bit more oversight or an update at a particular school? Is there any precedent for something like that?
So in the past, when we did have more updated academic data, we did have some additional conditional renewals. However, because we don't have updated letter grades, the board has not put that into practice the last couple of years. What I will tell you, though, is true to the nature of how the board staff has updated our practices the last couple of years. Please know that this charter will be receiving a visit next year. Board staff will continue to have additional conversations with this charter, and in true Imagine and how they do their operations, we're in constant communications with Monty and Brad as well. So we will have additional follow-up that we have with this school next year, despite nature of our current practices. If we do have concern with the charter's academics based on the letter grade that is received, we do have a targeted site visit that we do implement for those schools that have a low letter grade. And so that too is already built into our practices. We can also, if it is something that the board members would like, we can always do an academic visit next year. But really what we'd be looking at is their state data and making sure that their academic systems are still in alignment with what we saw the past year and the improvements that have already been mentioned that they are making.
Okay, I think that would be just a good idea for this charter, just if we could have that academic site visit. If that, I don't know that needs to be in motion. Is that just something that we can do for next year, since you're already visiting them anyway?
Yep. Yes, okay. We can already do that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, with that, are there any other questions for this charter? Okay, and if not, then is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Board Member Close. First of all, I just want to thank you and Superintendent Hoffman for your questions and the responses from the charter holder and staff, board staff. But having acknowledged that, I move based on a review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Imagine Prep Coolidge, Inc.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Board Member Stratton.
Thank you, Board Member Stratton. Aaron, with the roll call, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, up next, we have Imagine Prep Superstition. Sandy, you're still with us.
President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman, Imagine Prep Superstition, Inc. submitted a charter renewal application package on November 9th, 2021 to continue operation of Imagine Prep Superstition, serving grades 9 through 12 in Apache Junction. As part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Imagine Prep Superstition on January 25th, 2022, and a pop-in visit on January 7th, 2022. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract are reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The attendance policies were reviewed and found not to be in compliance with ARS Section 15841B and ARS Section 15901A. The attendance policies were revised and resubmitted, bringing this issue into compliance on January 28, 2022. The charter holder currently meets the board's operational and financial performance expectations, but does not meet the academic expectations due to being identified for targeted school improvement for FY 2019. I am available for questions if you have any.
Board members, any questions for Sandy? Okay, And if not, then if the charter rep would like to unmute themselves at this time and make any statement.
Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. Thank you for permitting us to be here today. I am Julia Reed. This is my 10th year serving Imagine Prep Superstition High School and my 3rd year as principal. I'm joined by Layla Valencia, our assistant principal, who's been with the school for the past 5 years. Established in 2008, our school is located in the East Valley near the US 60 at Ironwood and Southern, and we are a Title I school educating students in grades 9 through 12. Of approximately 350 students, 10% are ELL students, 11% receive special education services, and 41% of our students qualify for free or reduced lunch. Finding ways to best serve our unique population of students has led us to many community partnerships, and we currently partner with the Rite of Passage and serve a unique population of ELL students who are also categorized as homeless and/or refugee. This group is very transient as the program is seeking to reunify students with their families. We also partner with the City of Apache Junction Parks and Recs to exchange the use of facilities in the city and our campus. And we partner with the East Valley Institute of Technology and Central Arizona College, which allows students to earn certification in vocational training or earn college credit at little to no cost as a high school student. We pride ourselves on our reputation that we have built in our community, as evidenced by the fact that most of our new enrollment stems primarily from word of mouth from current and former families. For 8 years, Imagine Prep Superstition has received either an A or B letter grade, most recently receiving a B. We have consistently outperformed many of our surrounding schools per the state letter grade data and the US News and World Report rankings. Of the 5 high schools in a 10-mile radius, Imagine Prep Superstition ranks among the highest. We pride ourselves on our motto of being the college prep school of the East Valley, and I believe our statistics echo the sentiment that we truly are preparing our students for success at the next level. We routinely meet as a team to conduct a root cause analysis as part of our school improvement efforts, and I wanted to share some of our strengths and successes today. Our data indicates that students in our program are being more adequately prepared for proficiency than their surrounding area peers. We have had consistently high rates of graduation, and prior to COVID, we consistently had 100% of our enrolled seniors graduate and be accepted to college. We have consistently high rates of re-enrollment at around 90%. We consistently, we work diligently to retain staff and historically have had about an 85% intentional retention rate year to year. We have expanded our AP course offerings and currently offer 6 courses, which is a significant celebration for us considering our small campus size. We are a data-driven campus, and we routinely do data chats as a whole staff after our benchmarks and state assessments. These data chats provide us with an opportunity to identify trends, solicit feedback from our teachers, and create action steps to address any gaps. That process, combined with classroom observation data, helps us identify professional development needs as well. We provide high-quality competitive athletic programs with teams that consistently compete at the highest level in our league, with several teams having achieved state champion status. Our wrestling team has been back-to-back state champions, and this year had 2 students win at the state level in their division. Our cheerleading team has been first place in their division for 5 years, and just this weekend took first place in California at the national competition. As part of our annual analysis, we reflect on our celebrations and challenges. To address concerns that have arisen due to COVID-19, we have the following actions in place to address and improve our performance. We have determined a need for a more rigorous and progressive curriculum to address learning loss and provide a more robust resource for our teachers. We have assembled a curriculum task force to review current resources and research and evaluate additional options. We believe this will not only improve student outcomes, but will also help with teacher retention. We piloted a process this year with our 11th graders taking a full-length practice ACT test, so we had baseline data so that we could target the areas needed as they progress towards the state assessment. We've just administered round 2 of this process, so we'll be able to analyze the data from the baseline test to test 2 before they take the state assessment next month. We have incorporated more competitive hiring processes together with our tiered level of coaching to help us recruit and retain highly effective teachers. We implemented the 2-hour SEI block model and will be continuing to improve that program to meet the needs of our unique population. Based on our targeted subgroup data, we have identified the need to further develop intervention plans that help support closing the learning gaps for subgroups, particularly our special education students. And while we're proud of our achievements, we are constantly working to improve and become more systematic in our processes so that we have consistency across all areas of school improvement. We invite our teachers to participate in our task forces and school improvement efforts, which embodies the Imagine Schools shared values. We believe that this empowers teachers and leads to a higher degree of trust among staff. And we are actively working on solutions to address learning loss and the social emotional wellness of our students. We are asking the board for time to achieve our goals by approving our charter renewal request, and doing so will allow us to close these gaps and continue to be the school of choice for hundreds of our students and families. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for that. Board members, are there any questions for the charter? Okay, I just have a question. How many classes of how many sections, I don't know what word you guys use, because you guys are a 6 through 12, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, how many sections of each grade level do you have approximately?
9th grade, there's 4. 10th grade, I believe there's 3. 11th grade, there's 3, and 12th grade, is currently 3.
Okay. Can you just talk to me maybe specifically, and I know you mentioned some of it, so I don't you guys are, seems like all of your schools are particularly maybe looking at adopting new math curriculum. That's kind of the consistent thing that I've heard so far with all of the schools. So could you maybe talk about your process of what that looks like to adopt because I'm accurate that you said that you're adopting a new curriculum. Is that correct?
Yes, we are currently researching new curriculum.
Okay, and can you talk to me about your process for doing that? Do you do that globally, like at more of like the district level, or do you do that is it just your school team that does that? And kind of what's your process for that piece?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We actually, a couple of years ago, our teachers were very satisfied with the curriculum that we had for math, for high school math. The platform that we were using changed their curriculum, essentially the way it was presented to students and teachers. And we have found that it's just a lot less user-friendly. The teachers are not as satisfied anymore, and it does not seem to be proving to get us the results that we want. There is a process within Imagine Schools as a whole for curriculum adoption, and I can let Mr. Gearman here take a minute to talk about that, and then we have some specific steps that we're taking in conjunction with that.
Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman. My name is Matt Gearman. I'm one of the regional academic directors for Imagine Schools. Yeah, you've noticed that there is a theme to the adoption of the curriculum and the autonomy that each site has at making those final determinations is the result of a process that is pretty systematic across our organization. We know that at the site level, keeping within our shared values, we create task forces, curriculum task forces to kind of do the work that incorporates the voices and the considerations of those that are teaching and making the decisions about the curriculum. But what we do is we start with, we take a look around at what our sister schools are using, what neighboring districts are using, or we actually look at what the Department of Ed, what kinds of in each curricular area, what kinds of resources may be touted or promoted on those different sites, and reach out to publishers whose names consistently come up. There is a part of that process that we look at the ESSA ratings to make sure that they're appropriate and carry the weight of the ESSA recommendations for being evidence-based. And then we have a pretty thorough process of rubrics and other documents that help teams of teachers go through, review the curriculum, making sure that they are checking for whether it's alignment to standards. There's an aspect of bias that's taken a look at to make sure that it's representing the populations of the students that we serve, and a variety of other factors. And all of this is then kind of brought together, considered fully, narrowing down our choices to a couple of final options. Sometimes there's a piloting aspect that may take place. Sometimes the decision is just so clear and obvious that a final determination is made with the leadership of the site and the task force. And so systematically, we provide an overview of the process, some oversight of that process to make sure that they are doing their due diligence with each step, providing the tools that they use to document those conversations. And then ultimately it's up to each site to make the decision about which curriculum they want.
And President Lee, this is Rachel. If I can just add to what Mr. Gurman said, this is an area, as you know, that is reviewed during our academic systems reviews visits and that charters do submit documentation for. I will share that this school specifically did meet in all of the areas related to curriculum review and did submit documentation that supports everything that was just stated by the charter. So I do want to mention that because I think it's important to know that we did review this. They were able to submit completed rubrics, a complete process, several PowerPoints showing that process, as well as team meetings and whatnot, demonstrating full implementation of this process.
No, I appreciate that, Rachel. And I guess, and my question kind of stems with, it's interesting to have, you know, that you guys kind of have these district processes, but so much autonomy within your schools, which I think is really neat. And so I think for maybe some of your larger schools, you know, that have, that's why I was asking about the sections that maybe have 4, you know, sections of Algebra 1 and, you know, those types of things, there's a little bit more resource to have a team. But if you have a smaller high school, maybe in like the Coolidge area that maybe doesn't have that same robust resources to have different curriculum can provide challenges sometimes too, right? Like where if you guys aren't doing the same thing, it's kind of hard to talk data sometimes amongst campuses and have your larger, you know, campuses maybe resource some of your smaller campuses. So I was just curious how you guys, you know, did those processes, kind of where we see, you know, this overarching theme in quite a few of your charters. So it just kind of, so I appreciate you elaborating that for me. And Rachel, I appreciate you confirming that that is truly what's happening. And I do remember that process for my school. So I know that you guys are checked that pretty extensively. But it sounds like you guys are responding to the data, which is really what we can ask for. And so I appreciate that you had a thoughtful response, and you're clearly doing that regardless of it being your renewal year. So I appreciate you doing that proactively. And yeah. So board members, are there any other questions for the charter? Okay, if not, then is there a motion?
President Lee, can you hear me?
We can now, yeah.
Yes, I don't know what happened with that, but this is Board Member Close. I move, based on a review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package, to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Imagine Prep Superstition, Inc.
And is there a second?
Second, Jim Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. And with that, Aaron, with the roll call.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, guys. All right. Last Imagine Prep. So, but certainly not least, Imagine Prep surprise. Sandy, you're up.
President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman, Imagine Prep Surprise, Inc. submitted a charter renewal application package on November 9th, 2021 to continue operation of Imagine Prep Surprise, serving grades 9 through 12 in Surprise. As part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Imagine Prep Surprise on February 1st, 2022, and a pop-in visit on February 24th, 2022. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract are reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The charter holder was in compliance in all areas. The charter holder currently meets the board's academic, operational, and financial performance expectations. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Board members, are there any questions for Sandy? Okay, if not, then if the charter holder will go ahead and unmute themselves at this time and make any statement.
Good afternoon, President Lee, Vice President Close, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members, and thank you for the opportunity to share our school with you today. My name is Chris McComb, and I'm the school leader of Imagine Prep Surprise. Imagine Prep opened in 2008. We're located in the heart of Surprise in the West Valley, just a few blocks from our beautiful City Hall and the Royals and Rangers spring training facilities. Thankfully, they'll get ramping up again. We hold both the middle and a high school charter under one roof. Today, I'm highlighting our high school charter, serving approximately 320 students in grades 9 through 12. As you may know, Surprise is a rapidly growing area and has a highly competitive environment for school choice. We believe we've been able to maintain enrollment and achievement, proving that our students and parents are committed to our vision of college, career, and life readiness. The last 3 years that the Department of Ed has issued letter grades, our high schools maintain a B. With strong proficiency scores and a high graduation rate, our students are poised for post-secondary success. I will note that our school uses an international curriculum from Cambridge Assessment International Education. Several other Surprise schools offer this curriculum, most as an advanced or honors program, because it's high quality skill-based curriculum that aligns to clear outcomes and end of course exams and can be modified and accommodated like any other curriculum. We offer it for all our students. Although academics is a large portion of what we do, we believe that educating the whole child is paramount in creating opportunities for high school and beyond. This year, Character.org has renewed our status as a state school of character, and we hope to retain our status as a national school of character with our recertification meeting later this month. Additionally, we are regularly recognized by the Arizona Department of Education as an Arizona Civic School of Distinction. We have a robust extracurricular athletic program that emphasizes integrity, leadership, and community service. Most recently, our varsity football team earned their first state championship, and our varsity basketball team finished second in the state. We see ourselves as a contributing member of our community, and because of this, we prioritize community partnerships. Our largest academic partners include the National Center for Education and the Economy and the Center for the Future of Arizona. Both have been instrumental thought partners in our Cambridge implementation. In addition, the majority of our fundraising efforts support organizations near and dear to our students' hearts. The list is expansive, but we find it imperative for our students to learn the importance of service and community engagement. Through our comprehensive school excellence plan, we have identified a focus area on our bottom quartile, specifically our special education population. As special education students make up 18% of our student population, we feel an urgency to grow their scores in both reading and math. This year, we have totally revamped our title program. The program now features more frequent and more specific intervention that includes both before and after school support, in-school targeted support, and school-wide intervention and enrichment programs. We've seen pockets of improvement from our benchmark data, as well as a lot of qualitative improvements from teacher perceptions around student efficacy and an increase in traditional grade performance. I'm pleased with our intentionality here and look forward to continuing this work. Finally, I have to say that we have one of the greatest collections of staff members I could ask for. Our culture is collaborative and caring, and our teachers' retention is superb. We rally around mantras such as all means all and all paddles in the water. With this staff, I believe our potential is limitless. I'm happy to answer any questions from our board members at this time.
Board members, are there any questions for the charter? Okay, I don't have any either. You actually addressed some of the questions I was going to ask in your narrative, so thank you for providing that. It sounds like you guys are really providing a robust program, and that you have a plan for kind of addressing, you know, the learning loss that you've seen, and it looks like it really is due to COVID, because as you mentioned, you had, you know, some higher than the state average, you know, numbers, you know, prior to that. So with that, if there's not any other questions, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Board Member Close. I move based on review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Imagine Prep Surprise, Inc.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second is Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Aaron, with the roll call, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Ling.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And thank you to all of Imagine for being here with us today.
Thank you as well.
Yeah. Okay. Our last charter up for charter renewal is Sandhan Montessori School. And Sandy, you're still up.
Okay. President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman, Sandhan Montessori School, Inc. submitted a charter renewal application package on October 7, 2021 to continue operation of Sandhan Charter School, serving grades K through 12 in Gilbert. As part of the renewal process, staff conducted a virtual academic systems review of Sandhan Charter School on February 3rd, 2022, and a pop-in visit on January 7th, 2022. During the renewal process, specific areas of the charter contract are reviewed to ensure a charter holder is in compliance. The enrollment policies were reviewed and found not to be in compliance with the Every Student Succeeds Act and ARS Section 15184. Additionally, at the pop-in visit, an issue with fingerprinting was identified. All issues have been brought into compliance at this time. The charter holder currently meets the board's academic, operational, and financial performance expectations. I am available for questions if you have any.
Board members, any questions for Sandy before we turn it over to the charter? Okay, if not, then is there a representative from Sandhan Montessori School? If so, if you could unmute yourself at this time, state your name for the record and any statement you'd like to make.
Yes, my name is Christopher Sipple. I am the charter holder or operator for Sandhan Montessori School, Inc. I want to thank President Lee, Vice President Close, and Superintendent Hoffman, as well as the board to be able to be in front of you today. We want to especially thank Superintendent Hoffman and her staff. We've been wonderful recipients for over 25 of those $1,000 grants. So write directly about $25,000 to our classrooms. So thank you for that process. Our teachers were extremely excited about that. And we shifted a staff meeting when that was announced so that everyone could sit down, get their computers out and put in their projects. So thank you for that. Sandhan Charter School is a school that has been within the Gilbert community for the past 15 years. We're very blessed to be a part of it. It's nice to see us grow from our initial application, which was a K-4 application, to a K-12 now serving right over 850 students in the area. It's a little bit personal for Rita and I. My wife is here with us as well. We started it for our oldest son, who we're happy to share. Him, along with many of the original students that enrolled in Sandhan, were graduates over the past few years of the program in its totality. So it's wonderful to see students start at the beginning and go through in totality. One of the things we're most excited about is this year's graduating class happens to have someone that was accepted and received scholarship money to MIT. So we're very excited about the possibilities of getting into the Ivy League section of colleges as well. We too have a great honor and privilege to serve the Gilbert community in an athletic way as well. We've been very successful over the years in all athletic areas within our campus. We do know that there's still much work to do, as outlined in Sandy and her amazing staff. Sandy's been incredible. Rebecca was fantastic. Even Ben on the site visit came in. They have been incredible. And as you can see, Sandy's been all over the state this last couple of months doing these charter renewals. So thank you, Sandy and your team, for being a part of that. Identified was some fingerprint issues. One staff member in particular in our fingerprint card, concerns had to do with not having a fingerprint card, but having the IVP, as mentioned earlier in another charter renewals. What we've done to address that is we have updated our staff agreements to say that all staff must have an IVP fingerprint card on file with the staff. In addition, we have changed our new hire process and paperwork to identify that the IVP is what is needed when they go to get their fingerprint cards. I'm happy to announce all of those cards on staff, everyone who has an IVP card. In addition, our questionnaire for enrollment, the military question, we had never previously asked if families were in the military, and that was what drove one of our concerns for enrollment. We have since updated that piece on our enrollment process as well, and that question is now asked for that. Finally, I'd like to address a bit about our academics. As is common for most. This last year, we saw a significant decrease in our academics here at Sandhan for both math and language. However, I'd like to point out that in 2019, we saw an initial decrease in math, and at that time, we started the process to review our math curriculum. We felt at that time the Envision math that we had currently was outdated and had started the process to renew that. That was going to be a 3-year renewal process. However, COVID then began, and we expedited that process into a 2-year renewal and have fully implemented the renewal of our Envision math program for this year to include all of the aspects needed for intervention as well. On our language arts, we took the time this summer to start the process of renewing our language arts curriculum. In the elementary level, we have Wanders, and at the high school level, we now have Study Sync. That process began the end of last year through the summer, and full implementation has begun this year. In addition to that, we have started at the beginning of this year tutoring for before school, during school, and after school for those students identified as needing interventions, additional time in math and language. We provided additional training at the beginning of this year and throughout the year in the areas of MAP, which is our academic measurement of academic progress. We use NWEA, the MAP data, to identify and follow our students throughout the year for testing. We had all of our teachers trained at the beginning of the year for how to analyze that data, and then did it again. We have done it again since on a PD day during the year. In addition, at the high school, all of our teachers received ACT certification. We're very pleased and proud of this. We brought in a trainer from ACT, knowing that the state is making the shift for its assessment. We felt that that was a good piece for our entire staff to be trained in. So not just core academics, but all staff were trained on the ACT and our ACT certified instructors. The areas that we identified as needing help with our student data had to do with our special education population. Historically, you'll see that Sandhan's overall special ed population, thank you, is at 14%. However, in some grades, that is not adequately reflected, as pointed out in last year's testing data. So the data that we have in front of us for FY22 or FY21, our special education data showed that in third grade, over 30% of our population is special needs. In fourth is 25, fifth is 22%, and at the 10th grade level, it is 30%. So we have a significant special ed population in some of our testing grades. We have enhanced that by hiring additional parapro staff to address and help our special needs population. And we are excited to see the growth that we have seen so far with our MAP data and our special ed population. The final thing I'd like to point out is we are pleased with our FAE scores. If you look at our FAE data, students who are with Sandhan and stay with Sandhan have an incredible growth rate. In ELA, 1 year to 3 years, you'll see a 17% growth rate in our FAE, and in math, from 1 year to 3 years, you'll see a 16% growth rate in FAE. We do see a minor dip, percentage point dip in year 2, which we have begun to identify and analyze a little bit more deeper into that. We're not sure if that has to do with some of our special ed population. With that, I think I've gotten through all of my notes. Happy to answer any questions. My team is here as well that you may have for Sandhan. Thank you.
Charter holders, are there any questions? Charter holders, sorry. See, look at that. You started with population and now it's gone to me. Okay, so board members, are there any questions for the charter holder? Okay, I just have a question about your FAE, because I was also looking at that, because I guess I'm a little concerned with your data. Not that it is low in the sense that, like, and I'm going to I'm not going to look at FY21 necessarily because while that tells a story, I think obviously that can be explained, due to COVID, but looking at FY18, FY19, it is above the state average, which is great. But when we're looking at, how it compares to other schools in your area, that's a little bit concerning to me. Where it shows, between 80% to 93%, are outperform, or 80% in a 5 mile radius, and then 93% within that 2 mile radius. Now, I personally live in Gilbert, and so I am aware of the surrounding schools and the different focuses of some of the surrounding schools. And so I know that plays a factor. But when I was looking at your FY, so then I always go to the FAE. And as you mentioned, there's increase in FAE for FY21. What I find interesting is in FY19, there was, and I just pulled this up from the supporting document, so I don't expect you to necessarily have these numbers in front of you, but your 1 year FAE had 80%, and then your 3 year FAE dropped to 71% in ELA. And then for math, it was even more significant drop. It came in just around 82%, and your 3 year FAE dropped to 65%. So I guess, and I know that you mentioned this a little bit, but maybe if you could just talk particularly, and you don't need to get into the specifics, because I know whenever board members, I go, hey, from FY19, I pull up one random document from your packet. You don't necessarily have to find that document, but maybe just, talk to me a little bit about specifically what you're doing to, even though you're above the state average, to maybe be kind of on trend with what your area is. Does that make sense?
It does, and I would say that I appreciate that you live out here, and our approach to education is a little different than some of our surrounding schools, and so it just is. That is just an is for us, and it's not an excuse. It is an is for us, and our approach is just a tad bit different with that. And interesting enough, the FAE that I'm looking at, maybe we're looking at different FAEs, because I'm looking at an increase year over year from 1 to 3, but you're saying that you see a decrease. Is that correct?
It was just in some of the additional documents, and it was for FY19. So it's not what's in the first page of the board packet. It was just for FY19 where there was a decrease. So I'm not sure, obviously something's improved from FY19 to FY21. It's just the board that is from like your A through F model breakdown. It gives you the FAE score. So I just found that to be interesting. I don't know. I kind of sprung that question on you from a different FY, so I don't know that I necessarily expect you to have an answer, but maybe more so, I can appreciate you being a different type of program. Ours, the schools that I work at are the same. They're the same type of program in the sense that they're not necessarily geared to maybe where some of the other ones are in the Gilbert area, but that doesn't mean that that's not an important element, right? So I guess, is there, besides the Envisions, when did you do the Envisions adoption, or the new, it sounds like you still adopted Envisions, just maybe their like most current copy rate. Is that what you did? When did that happen?
Yeah, so 2019 is when we adopted the Envision process. That was year 1 of it, right? So 2020 is when we adopted. We identified in 2019 the concerns because we saw a dip in our math scores. And so we adopted the totality of it. When I say that, that is the additional pieces of the intervention that got adopted as well. And so we brought in all the intervention pieces current, and then our language arts, which was this year adopted, all pieces and areas were purchased for delivery of instruction. I'd have to say, and I apologize, President Lee, I don't have that specific analyzation for you. I was just
gonna say, no, that's okay. I think actually that could be what it was. So that makes sense. So if you went from really not having that full program with those RTI pieces, I'm very familiar with the Envisions curriculum. And so I think the good news is you're seeing an FY21 now with that increase in FAE being different than FY19 after those additional resources. I would just continue, to encourage you to find those additional resources, because while, your program is different and you're in a very competitive market, I think it's, still important, to not have 90% of the schools, outperforming you, within the 2 mile radius. But that to be said, you are, you were above the state average pre-COVID, and you are in a very competitive 2-mile radius. So with a different program. Yeah, awesome. Okay, board members, are there any other questions for the charter?
President Lee, this is Kathy Hoffman.
Please.
I was wondering if you could speak a little more to how the staff you have to provide special education services and what that looks like, since you did mention that you mentioned having more paraprofessionals, but curious about the other certified staff to provide the special education services.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent Hoffman. Currently, what we've done is, like I said, we have added additional staffing at our high school where we see our highest SPED population. 7 through 12 is the majority of our SPED population, astronomical numbers in our mind. But what we've done is we have 2 on-site SPED instructors now. We used to just have 1 at each campus and a couple parapros. We've now expanded that to 2 on-site SPED instructors here at the Power campus, and then 1 full-time and a parapro at Recker. In addition, we've brought in a special education director consultant to help us with the overall, management of the special ed program in totality. What we have also added at the speech and language, we have a lot of speech and language at the younger grades. And so we've added, always had a on-site speech and language. We've added at full-time speech and language persons. So 1 person just dedicated to our campus, which has been incredible. We've seen that incredible, not only with speech and language, but the social emotional aspect that so many of our kiddos need help with right now in those younger grades. And then we added reading interventions, particular with that Heather does the reading intervention.
Linda Mood-Bell.
Linda Mood-Bell. We've added Linda Mood-Bell too with K3 interventions for some of our kiddos identified as well. So lots of additional resources this year in the special education realm.
Thank you. I really love hearing that you have a full-time SLP, because that's very rare, I find, in smaller schools or like charter schools in particular. And so hopefully you can even speak to other charter colleagues about the value that that brings to your school, because from my experience, having worked in that role, I think it can, like you were saying, it can help on the SEL side, it can help with reading, and so many other things. So I'm happy to hear that on a personal note. But that was the only question I had. Back to you, President Lee.
Great, thank you. Charter board members, are there any other questions for the charter holder? Okay, with that, then is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Board Member Close. I move, based on a review of the information provided by the representatives of the charter holder and the contents of the application package, to approve the charter renewal application package and grant a renewal contract to Sandhan Montessori School, Inc.
Is there a second?
Second. Swanson.
Thank you, Member Swanson. I could not tell, so I appreciate you saying your name. And Aaron, with the roll call, please.
Vice President Close.
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett.
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Mr. Stratton.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Bye. All right. Up next, Ashley, close us out. Summary of current events, future meeting dates, and items for future agendas, please.
Okay, I'll make this easy on all of you. The next board meeting is on April 11th at 9 a.m. And that is all that I have to report for this current item.
And Ashley, we are planning on being fully virtual for that board meeting as well. Is that correct, or is that to be determined?
It's to be determined at this point. We do have some things up in the air with new board member appointments. And then also it is our understanding that still the SBE technology at their board meeting location is still not functioning. So we will make sure to update stakeholders in the field and board members once we know more. Awesome. But as of right now, I think it's okay to assume that we would be virtual.
Okay, Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Well, with that, we are adjourned. Thanks everyone for being here.
Good job,
Thanks.
Mary Ellen.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.